Yesterday, something remarkable happened in the AI world. OpenAI released a model that you can run on your own hardware. And today I'm going to show you how you can actually use that in your own Apex applications. So here's an example with a prompt, and then the GPT model that runs on my own laptop came up with this answer. So OpenAI, you know it from GPT and ChatGPT. The name wasn't really fitting because it wasn't as open before, or the models were like behind their APIs, so you couldn't run them on your own hardware, but this changed yesterday. Note that it's not the GPT models that run ChatGPT. These are different models, like smaller ones, open models. And yeah, the nice thing is you can run it on your own hardware. Me, in my case, on my laptop, but probably you want to do it in your company with like special hardware. And the good thing is that no data can leave your network this way. They have two versions of that model, a 20 billion and 120 billion parameter models. The bigger the numbers, the more parameters, the more capable the model is, but also it requires way more hardware. So the 20 billion parameters are already slow on my MacBook. I would be able to run the 120 billion parameter model. They said it requires like 60 gigabytes of GPU memory. So how can you actually run it? That's the cool, important thing. First is Ollama. So let me show you the website. Ollama is like for some while the way to run models on your own hardware. It's like a runtime for these models, so you can just download them. They have now like also desktop app for macOS and Windows, but for example for Linux they have like a command line tool. I also have the command line tool on my Mac. Then you can just browse models. So for example GPT OSS, these are the new models, and then you just run basically Ollama pull this model name, like you are used to, for example, with Docker, and then you can talk to the Ollama endpoint and ask for some output. So how we do this in PL/SQL from the Oracle database, and for that I'm working on UCAI for a few months now, and that's a PL/SQL API to interact with any AIs. So it's not only for Ollama, for example, you can also talk to OpenAI, their servers, for example, to Anthropic or Google AIs. And the nice thing is, like, I try to minimize or unify the APIs so you can easily switch models and you have just a small function you can call and all the complexity is handled for you. It's free open source, and you also don't need 23 AI because it's just calling APIs, so you can run it on like 12.2 and upwards. So how did I implement it here? So let's switch to a different customer. This is the sample customer app where you just have like, you track your customers, how your activities like having a meeting, a phone call, etc. When I open this, so I first like generate this prompt. Now the prompt says, please summarize the latest activity with our customer and the customer name here in 2 sentences. Give a short review if we're in good standing and propose the next steps in 2 sentences. So I made sure it's keeping the text short because as you can still see it's loading. It takes some time to load, and the less text that's generated, the faster is the response basically. So just a quick note here. How did I get the activity data? It's just a normal query, but instead of returning like the whole SQL results, I pass it into JSON object and JSON array. So we just get one row with one column of the JSON. You can just select it into a variable and then just append it to your prompt. And this way we have this nice JSON info for the LLM to analyze. So finally, after like 40 seconds, I don't know, we got a response. It's nicely formatted. In late July, Irene presented it, blah, blah, blah. And we're in good standings. The next steps are to arrange a joint session with blah, blah, blah. So it's doing a great job. Most importantly, how did we communicate to Ollama? And this is the whole code. That's the beauty of UCAI, at least what I hope. First, I tell it basically to tell where the endpoint is. So I run it locally, the database and Ollama. So I can just, from my containerized database, I just say, okay, on my host system, on the port, this, and the endpoint is API. If, for example, if you run it in your company network, you would maybe put an IP here or something. Then Then this is the most important call, UCAI.generateText. We pass our prompt. Provider is Ollama. Again, I could switch it out for Google or like Anthropic. And then we pass our model. In this case, it's just the ID of the model here. We get a result back. And from the result, it contains some more info. We would just want the final message, the response, and we put that into the item. As you can see here, I also prepared a demo. For example, Qwen is another model. So again, on Ollama, you can browse the models. You may have heard of DeepSeek or Gemma Google open models, and Qwen. Qwen is also quite impressive currently. It's from Alibaba, the Chinese giant, and they have like super small models with 0.6 billion parameters and super big one with 200 plus parameters. I'm using the 4 billion parameter model here, and I'm enabling reasoning. So just turn this to true and change the model here. And when I open this again, it starts again. So first it should be a bit quicker because it's a smaller model, but I enabled reasoning. Reasoning is basically a way to where the AI starts thinking. It first doesn't start immediately with a response. It just talks to itself and comes up with a plan. And you can see here it took only like half of the time. If I would disable reasoning, it's even more quicker. Again, on my local laptop, on a real like graphic card, it would be quite faster. For example, at United Codes, Dimitri recently ordered some NVIDIA machines, quite expensive, but they have like hardware that is made for AI, and we want to run bigger models in a quicker fashion locally in our office in the future. And we also come up with a nice result, nicely formatted. So yeah, you can play around. The AI world moves fast. Maybe there are in the future the second generation of the GPT models. You can just switch then and you're ready to go. So if you want to run this yourself, check out UCAI on GitHub. On the releases section here, there are the download files. And we also have like documentation here. And here's like an installation guide. All the AI providers we support. One interesting thing is tools and function calling. So this is the way that you can actually allow your AI to call PL/SQL functions in a database, for example, to get more context, more data, or to actually write data. I tested this even with the GPT model, and it's quite good. So for example, here's a test, get user info, I called it, and that's like, I ask it like, what's the email address of Jim? I don't add it to the prompt or something, but I tell him you have a tool, get user info, and then it gets a JSON. Basically, if it's calling it, it gets a JSON back with all the users, including their emails, and then it can look into it and return it. Good thing is like you don't pollute your whole context. It just asks to execute it when you actually needs it, when the AI needs it. And there's another one where it's actually more complicated. It needs to get like some user info, some project info, and at a third step, also call a function that inserts into the database, basically creating a record. And both these times it did great. You can see the more complex one with more tool calls took 50 seconds, but again, it's my local laptop. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope this is interesting and see you in the next video. Bye bye.